Folks, I make it 6 o'clock. It's Carl Murray here. This is ENTP 7312 or Entrepreneurship 3B. As you can see on the screen there, you should have my email address, kamarais@varsity-college.co.za. As always, please feel free to drop me a mail. I prefer if you try to contact me through email, but you are welcome to contact me through Learn as well. We're going to look at Learning Unit 2, start looking at Learning Unit 2 or Chapter 5 in your textbook. The textbook is Neck and Murray. But before I get into that, I want to assignment, the POE, there's 2 parts to it, and then the final assignment. There's also a presentation that we're going to have to work in, etc. We'll do that later, the presentation and so on. But I want to urge you at this point to start through it. I'm going to deal with only the first part of Learning Unit 2, and I know there are 2 parts of this that pops up in your assignment, in the first assignment. So it's important that you as you work through the various parts of the work, you should start looking at your assignment so that you've got a sense of where you at and what you're doing and why you're studying this, and that you can start thinking about how this is going to influence your own assignment and your own project. These projects are very unique, as in each one of you will have a totally different project. It's not one question that everybody answers. So it's important that you start working from the beginning. I have updated the PACER. When will the national support sessions be? I don't think I've uploaded the updated one yet. I'll have to check. But please do yourself a favor, work through that. I think our timelines are going to be quite tight eventually, and it might be a question of me only discussing the assignment a week or so before it's due, because it's either that or 3 weeks before, and I think 3 weeks is too long. So please, guys, work through your assignment, have a look at it so that you understand what's happening, and that you can ask sensible questions when I'm dealing with the national support sessions. Okay, Learning Unit 2, building business models. So we're going to start looking at business models. The outcomes that we're going to look at tonight are these 3 outcomes. So what is a business model? What are the 4 core areas of a business model? And the importance of customer value proposition, or CVP. And as always, it's important that you understand what these learning outcomes are, and that you work through the textbook and work through the material, including the material on Learn, in accordance with these learning outcomes. So let's start looking at a business model. So a business model is more than just what you're going to do. It describes to the outside person how your venture captures value. Now, firstly, we've got to understand what value is, what value means to us. So what value means is the way in which you grow your business from a smaller startup, maybe a venture that you've garage, or around the dining room table, and how this venture grows, becomes larger, becomes more valuable, and how it captures that value so that there is the capital value of the company increases, and so that your products creates value for the people that buy them, so that they want to spend money on it, that they're happy to say, look, I'm going to dig into my pocket, I'm going to put my money on the table, because whatever this person's delivering, that's something that I want. To do this, we need to gather evidence from the wider world. Ideate model that I put up some time ago. You will also see how we're gathering evidence, we're looking at the world, we're trying to figure out what's going on. And this leads us to this thing called evidence-based entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship is not just something that is thought about and boom, there's the idea. We've spoken about this many times before in this class and in other classes, that entrepreneurship is not this poof light bulb moment and there we are, this is this great idea, boom, tomorrow we production, the day after that we've got the holiday house in Langebaan and we're driving a Merc because it's such a great idea. No, it's a process. That's an iterative process that repeats itself, but it's a process based on facts. And although we say to you it's about doing stuff, it's also about saying, how does this work? What if we try this? Coming up with various hypotheses and dealing with those hypotheses and saying, this happens in the world. How do we change it if that happens? If there's a new competitor, what do we do? At what point do we say, look, there's a better product than ours, we're getting out of the market? At what point do we say, no, hang on, we can change our product to be better than the competitor's product? To that point, thing that we've got up our sleeve and we wait until the competitor moves, and when they think they've done something, we come out and we do something so much better than them. We think out this by hypothesizing. Of course, sitting around a table talking about this and creating hypotheses are great, but we actually got to do something about it. And thus we've got to take these products, make them, test them, share them with people, ask people to have a look at them and say to us, does this work for you? How does this taste? What does this look like? How does this function? Because that's the validation part. Where you're getting to the point that you're saying, this product that I've thought out by hypotheses, I've made it, I've tested it, and it's validated that this is a legitimate product. And as I mentioned at the bottom, that's just a note there where they're talking about the startup, and that a startup is a temporary organization. Interesting that they talk about it as a temporary organization. Eh? We think a startup develops and it becomes a business, which becomes a large enterprise. Capture the value from by selling shares or selling the company or running the business. But they talk about a startup, Nick and Murray talk about a startup as a temporary organization in search of a business model. So it's not a business yet, it's a temporary organization. And they qualify the business model by saying a scalable business model. What does scalable mean? Scalable simply means this. Sometimes a business works when it's small. But the moment we try to expand it, the moment we go back to point one, where we try to capture value by growing this business into a sizable business that could actually make money, make enough money to capture value, it might all fall apart. It might all come apart at the seams. And that temporary organization is not an organization that's ever going to capture value. And we fold it and we move on. That's what entrepreneurs do. They take a situation, they try utilize the opportunities they found within the situation, they come up with ideas, they create a business model, they implement it, but if it doesn't work, they walk away, and you live to fight another day. You come up with your new idea, you come up with something else. It might be based off this, but a different iteration, etc. So what does the business model do? The key part is it helps us understand what we are doing. It creates this, and I'm very things like plan, cycle, or anything like any name to accept a model. It gives us a sense of what are we doing, how are we doing this, where are we doing this, how are we going to make money out of this. Now, there's different types of business models or different approaches to these models. Innovation is one, and this is where you're coming with something that's new. You're creating a new product that hasn't existed before, and you're saying, well, this is a doable thing. If you think of the creation of the television, for example, where there was no way to put into people's houses, and do it live as well, until the innovation of the television was created. So that's something brand new that wasn't able to happen previously. If we think about something that's taken over our lives almost, and taken over the television, the internet, that's a brand new innovation. If one looks at this innovation in the light of television, it's actually a disruption, which is the next one. You may have, I can't remember exactly where that fits into the business management curriculum. You may have dealt with disruptive innovation already, but if you haven't, disruptive innovation is something that comes in and it changes the way that we see a traditional product, and it eventually overtakes. Typically, people don't want to buy into it. And the classic example that's always used is the electrical typewriter. When they invented the electrical typewriter, people didn't want to use it. Typists specifically, who was actually the market, because the fingers could move faster than the actual typewriter the electrical typewriter could type. It's because the way it was, it's called a golf ball, so it's a round thing that had the letters, and it would turn and click the letters, turn and click the letters, and it wasn't fast enough to do everything that typists could do. But over time, it became faster and faster and faster. The people making traditional typewriters thought, nah, it's never going to work. People like our typewriter. And by the time they realized that these new typewriters had become so much better, it had this, and traditional typewriters are now found in vintage markets. And strangely enough, the disruptor, the electrical typewriter, are found in the next stall in the vintage markets, because these days we have laptops and we don't have things like typing rooms, and ladies, particularly it was ladies, typists that only sat and they typed documents. I know it's a strange concept to you, but when I started working in, what was that, the early 90s, we had rooms full of people. So nobody had or very few people had personal computers. You would write a letter, you'd take it there, a document, whatever, you'd hand it in the typing room. A day later, you'd get the typed document, fix the errors, and send it back. But firstly, everything became much faster with electrical typewriters, and then we all started having laptops. Well, there weren't laptops, we had desktops in our offices, and everybody started writing their own thing. Next business model is differentiation, where you take something already, differentiate, you make it different. My classic example that I love is coffee. When coffee was firstly brought into the European world, it was brought in as beans, and the beans were simply the beans that were chewed, gave a mild intoxicating effect, a mild invigoration effect, and was supposed to be very healthy for you. In time, we learned to crush those beans and put them in, steep them in hot water to make a drink, and that became more and more refreshing. And then somebody came and they differentiated it by saying that in the modern world, it takes too long to make filter coffee. By the way, it never is too long to make filter coffee, but we will use instant coffee, and they made instant coffee, and everybody said, wow. And then it was differentiated again with the pod machines, where you stick the little pod in there, and now you get an instant cup of filtered coffee. See how this changed the market every time, how there was a differentiation, how there was a new model, and how that model then differentiated the way. It was still all coffee. It wasn't a disruption. We didn't replace coffee with tea or something like that, but it differentiated the way in which we made this beverage. And then the last one is imitation, where we see a product that we think, that's imitation has got a very bad reputation. But we shouldn't see imitation although there is that element of imitation, we shouldn't see imitation as somebody making a pair of false Nikes, for example, making the swoosh go the other way and saying, well, it isn't Nikes, but it is Nikes, or manufacturing false Rolexes. It would rather, and I'd like to go further with the watch is where somebody is making a watch that looks the same as another watch, but it's clearly not that watch. I'll give you, and indulge me please with this. I am a bit of a watch head. If you go Google the Rolex Explorer, the Polar, which is the white-faced one with an orange orange 24-hour GMT hand, and you go look at Invicta, which is a much cheaper model, they make exactly the same thing. They don't put Rolex on there. It says Invicta on there, but it looks like the Rolex Polar Explorer, or Explorer 2 as it's known. If you Google Rolex Explorer 2 and you then Google Invicta Explorer 2, you'll probably find that. And that's imitation, where we're making something look similar like something else. But it goes. Electric cars appeared on the market. A bunch of people went to imitate electric cars because finally there was technology and people were imitating what other people were doing. Like instead of having a motor in the middle, 4 small motors, one on each wheel, and then they found out that's too expensive, went back to the central electric motor, etc., etc. So those are the various types of the business model. However, we need to also look at what is contained within the business model. And there's 4 key parts. And the textbook talks about the interlocking of the business model. So let us understand that you can't, these 4 things stand on their own, but you cannot remove one of them from the business model. You can't take one part of the business model and pull it out and just stick something else in there, because they are interlinked. They and interlinked. The word that the textbook uses is better. They are interlocking parts. They lock each other together. That they can't be separated from each other. So it's the offering, the customers, your infrastructure, and your financial viability. So the offering is obviously what we offer the customer. It is what we are giving to people out there that will generate the value for us, right? It's also they talk about the customer value proposition, and we'll look at the customer value proposition later on in this chapter, or the so-called what the product is worth to the customer. It doesn't tell you what the product necessarily costs to manufacture. It doesn't necessarily speak to just the monetary value. It is much bigger than that. I'll tell you a story. When I was a young man, we were playing around, fooling around. I was 19, 20 at the time. Was around at my house. My parents had gone away for the weekend. It was just myself, my older sister, some friends, fooling around. And I wanted to chuck somebody into the swimming pool. They ran into the house and closed the door. The key of the door happened to be on the outside. So I thought, okay, I'll lock you into the room. So I turned the key and locked them into the room. So they were locked inside this room. Joke, very funny. Okay, going to go unlock them. And those of you that have met me know I'm quite a large guy. And I went to unlock it and it wouldn't unlock, and I pushed it just a bit further and I snapped the key in the lock. This is 2 o'clock on the Thursday before Easter weekend. So how do you open that door? Well, you get a locksmith. And you try to find somebody who's available that is prepared to come out to unlock this door that I had locked. And as the time ticked by and as it became later and later on that Thursday before weekend, the value part of the CVP kept increasing. It became more and more worth, because now we were starting to contemplate breaking the door down or removing, getting time out the window or whatever. We did eventually find somebody who fully exploited the value part of the CVP. But understand how it wasn't the value of the key to unlock the door. It was the value of the service. It was how much it was worth for me at that instance. If you've ever dealt with a toilet that's backed up, you'll also understand the concept. So that's the offering. The customers. Who are the people that are going to see the value in your business? Who are the people that are going to be prepared to stick their hands in their pockets and pay for the value? Who are the people that are going to sign a contract with you so that you can come back and that will come back, sign a contract so that you can come back and redeliver the service. Think of somebody that's offering a cleaning service in the house. Who is going to hire you week after week or month after month, whatever the contract is? Garden services, cell phone contracts. Who wants that service? Who is that customer? Because remember something, there are, and I'm going to say no business that can reach the complete market. There are products. When I was studying, I had a prof that always used to use the example of toilet paper. Said you don't understand the value of toilet paper until you don't have it. And it's the one product that everybody uses in one form or the other. Whether they make it themselves and whether they buy the fanciest, most expensive toilet paper. But let's realize something. So the market is there. Everybody is the market. It's a product that everybody wants. However, what part of that market can you exploit? Are you going to target the market that uses old newspapers? Or are you targeting the market that wants a triple layer extra fluffy type of toilet paper? Which part of the market are you going to target? Because you can't target that whole market. It's too big. It's geographically too widely dispersed. It's just impossible to get to everyone. The next question, how do you reach this market? How do you get to that target market? How do you get your product, your service, your wow thing that you've created? How do you get to that market? How do you give it to those people? How do you get those people to say, oh yes, this is exactly what I wanted, right? So that is your customer, your market. This also includes, of course, market segmentation. The next part that we need to look at is the infrastructure. What are the resources that you need to be able to deliver that customer value proposition, to deliver this business model? And there's a whole lot of people, technology, product suppliers, partners, and all of these play a specific role. I was watching somebody who was visiting a country on YouTube, and it's a relatively poor country. And he was showing the hotel he was staying in, and it was very basic. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how the star rating system in South Africa works, but it's probably a 1-star, maybe a 2-star hotel. And this guy said, this is such an amazing hotel to stay at because the staff are so friendly and they're helping. To go as a tourist in this country. They're telling me to go, what sites to see. They're saying to me, but hang on, they will get me a taxi because I need to get the right taxi because otherwise the people are going to charge me too much and so on. And it was just, he was just raving about this experience. Now I know the person from watching his travels around the world, and he's stayed in some top hotels. And the way he was going on, I found it extremely interesting because it wasn't the hotel, it was the people. But the people form part of your infrastructure. sometimes it's the technology that you need specific technology, and sometimes remember these business model interlocking parts of the business model, they all need to be there, and I've had a business idea for years which I simply can't execute. The idea is to have in a place like the Cape Town waterfront or similar type of tourist attraction, to have a booth that you step in. It 3D scans your body, and then it prints a statuette, a little statue of you. But you can choose if you want to superimpose your face and so on, or modify your body slightly. The face is obviously the key feature, and you want to be in a Superman costume, then it'll do that for you. But the idea is to sell a little statuette of you, or you and the two together, that would be scanned and then quickly 3D printed. But I can't do it because the infrastructure is not there. The technology is not there. And so we can carry on and talk about the facilities that we need, the partners, the supplier, products, specific products, etc., that we need. But you need to be able to have all that infrastructure to be able to make sure that your business model can be delivered. And then lastly, for those of you that are saying, oh no, but Carl, that technology is there, it's not that difficult, financial viability. I'm sure one can get the technology. But does this eventually pay off? What is the cost of creating this product, of delivering this business model, compared to the revenue that I'm going to earn? Is there a positive return? Am I going to get value out of this? Is it going to be something that's going to run at a loss? Remember something, please. Your business model might run at a loss initially, but if you can show that over the long run you will make money, and that people will be prepared to pay for that cost and pay for that service, it might still be viable, even though it's starting off as a loss. Go and we've taught you about this stuff in other classes. Go look at loss leaders and things like that, where products are initially sold at a loss, but it is to get people to buy coffee machines. When they launched, I happened to be in Europe. I was staying there for a couple of years, and they were handing those machines out like candy at a kid's party. You walked in, if you bought one sleeve of pods with 5 pods in, they gave you one of the machines for free. Why? They were making a loss, but they knew in the long term you're going to come back and buy more and more and more of those pods, and in the long term they're going to make money. So the key thing is, does this last interlocking part of the business model, does it hold the model together? Will you make money? Okay, I want to go back now to something that we spoke about earlier, the customer value proposition. That's a key part of the offering, and it's in all 4 of those parts we spoke about. The CVP is a key part. It is how that value that the plumber out. What is it worth for you to drive that smart car? Right? What is it worth to have that new flip cell phone that folds in half and folds open with a folding screen? What is it worth to you? And there's 3 qualities that are key here, and this is that it's better value than the competition, and value. Remember, we don't necessarily talk about money. It is the value that it holds for you. So a cell phone with a folding screen that you can open up to double its size, and it's got a big, almost like a palm top screen, does very similar things to another cell phone. But what's the value to you? I can give you another argument, and I know I will. When I say it, I will hear people 4 days later listening to this screeching. an apple. Is it really that much better? But the value that it holds for somebody that is into the Apple, always argue that yes, it holds a lot more than HP or Dell or whatever the case may be. In monetary terms, separate from what the customer says for you in monetary terms, does the math show better value? Do you make a profit out of this? And can you keep doing this? Is this something that on the long term, whether it is the effort it takes from your side, or whether it is the raw materials that you're using, or whatever it is, can you keep on doing this? I've mentioned before, I'm not sure if I mentioned to you, because I've got a little honey business. I buy honey in bulk and I pack it in bottles and I sell it. It's a tiny business. It's more of a hobby than a business. But for me to make, I need to now start putting a lot more money into the business, because this time of the year, I'm noticing I'm running out of honey and nobody has honey. Why? Because we're coming towards middle and late winter. Bees are not making honey. I should buy more honey at the beginning of the season to make my business sustainable. Because now I have customers asking for honey and I can't deliver honey. So guess what? They're going to other people that can deliver honey. Okay, a couple of more points. And they talk about the book, Jobs, Pain Points and Needs, is the heading in the textbook. And they talk about the overt benefit, the real reason to believe in the dramatic difference that the CVP makes. So the CVP is about that overt benefit. The one thing that the customer sells that you like. So if you go look at products and you look at product specs, you'll see they list about 20 different things telling you how great this product is. When we look at CVP, we say, what's the one thing that happens to you? In a restaurant, the food may not be the greatest, but it's the service. The next restaurant, it might be that they've got an incredible wine list. The next one might simply be that it's cheap. But it's that one big thing that they sell. Credibility, or as they call it, the real reason to believe. Your business needs credibility. If you say you're going to do something, you must do it. It's one of the easiest ways for a business to fall flat is by not doing what you say you're going to do and losing credibility. And credibility has become much more valuable in recent years, in the past 5-10 years. And I'll tell you why. When I was, and maybe younger than some of you, and I was studying, we were talking about customer service and we were talking about word of mouth. And we got told, every person will tell 6 people if they had bad customer service, but they might only tell one person about good customer service. So bad news travels faster than good news. That was the normal statement from our profs and from our textbooks at the time. But today it's much worse. Today bad news flies, because what do? We run to the internet, we run to Facebook, we run to Hello Peter, and we put it on there, and it tanks the credibility of an organization very quickly. And sometimes it's done maliciously. Sometimes it's done to make something that was not so good look really, really bad. And that's a dangerous thing, by the way, to do, because companies can actually sue you, and they can sue you successfully for that. But in any case, but you need to keep your credibility. And then lastly, the dramatic difference. What is so unique in your product or service in relation to the other people out there, in the other options? Because there's very few products that the product itself is unique, but we must make the CVP unique. We must give the customer something that they say, oh, wow. All these 4 things that why customers look at products. So it's lack of time, lack of money, lack of skills, and lack of access. So lack of time. So some institutions expect us to do quite a bit on our own. Think about some places that ask you to complete a lot of forms, or some places that don't do deliveries. You must come pick something up from them, or just something that you just don't have the time to do yourself, right? That could be part of the value proposition. Lack of money. And lack of money depends on where you stay. I stay in a very rural area. I pay for a really weak internet, satellite beamed in. I'm paying more than R1,000 a month. I can't get fiber. Another place that I have a house where we have fiber and internet's easy to get it. I'm paying less than R400 for a much better connection than I'm paying R1,000 for. Right? If somebody was and say, I can deliver fiber to you, and I want to put this as a service for the same money, I will take it tomorrow. If it's cheaper, I'm going to be over the moon. Lack of skills, sometimes we simply can't do it ourselves. So we may not have the skills to be able to do something, or we may not have the proper tools to do it, and you might provide me with that tool to be able to do that, and to be able to do something that I haven't been previously able to do. And then the lastly is the lack of access. Sometimes there's simply not a way that we can do this thing that I have access to being able to do it. For example, ask people that that want to do their own taxes. To do your own taxes, you have to go into SARS for taxes. It's a nightmare, especially if your tax is slightly more complex. Therefore, I pay somebody to do it. I have a lack of access to that. The textbook uses the example, I believe, of solar energy. For many years, solar energy wasn't a viable option because you couldn't access that technology because the technology was too expensive and too difficult to access it. These days, many households, myself included, has solar energy because somebody took that as a customer value proposition, said, well, look, we need to make it smaller batteries so that we can put one on every household roof. And they've been able to do that. It's taken time, but I've now got access because somebody took that as part of their CVP. Okay, guys, I'm going to call a halt there. As always, if you've listened to this and you find it interesting, please feel free to drop me an email with your questions on there and say to me, Gordon, I listened to this. I'm struggling a bit with this concept or that concept. And as I said, please do me a favor, go back and go have a look at the assignment, the first assignment specifically. But I would read through the complete POE document if I was you, so that you understand where these things that we spoke about fits into your bigger picture. Next week you're on your own, and I just want to check. I believe later you're going to complete this chapter next week on your own. You specifically need to have a look at the section that runs from 5.5 or page 170, the business model canvas, because the business model canvas is probably going to be quite a bit of the part of your will that you have to do. I know you've got to do a business model canvas there. So pay specific attention to that part of this chapter because you need that for your will module as well. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Please drop me questions if there's anything that's not clear. Cheers, Gordel signing off. Talk again.